So, good morning, Year Six. Today we are looking, it's Thursday, and we are looking in English at actually writing our letters to the MP. Okay, so yesterday you planned what you were going to put into your letter in quite a bit of detail. So you thought about how you're going to start your piece of writing, what's going to go into your introduction to shock the MP into reading further. Then you thought about your clear arguments that you were going to point evidence, explain about the problems with plastic. And then you were going to point out some solutions, and you planned three different types of solutions that you could give your MP on what we could do in our local area and a conclusion. So you really well planned it. Okay, so today you're going to be actually writing. So below to help you, you have a success criteria for writing a persuasive argument. So some information that will help you to and suggest that and suggestions of things that you could do to make your piece of writing more persuasive. You've also got an example of a persuasive letter. This one's about persuading a head teacher to take a class to Alton Towers, but it's still the same sort of thing where the arguments are well developed and the cohesion is good. So the way that the paragraphs are linked together. So you can have a look at that example. And then you have a list of um, what is expected for someone at year six to include in their piece of writing? Okay, so we'll just have a little look at that. So, as you can see, there's working towards, working at the standard, and working at greater depth. Okay, so to be working towards the standard, you need to be using things like paragraphs always in your writing, spelling words as correctly as you can, and trying your an absolute best to make sure that you're using the correct punctuation, so capital letters, full stops, exclamation marks, and question marks correctly. If you're doing all of that, then you're at least working towards year six. But to be working at the expected standard in year six, you need to take that a bit further. So you need to be using things like parenthesis, so brackets, commas, or dashes. So you could do that by using relative clauses. You need to be using subordinate clauses, and the subordinating conjunctions are there to help you. You need to be using modal verbs, so that's our target for this week. The passive voice, fronted adverbials, noun phrases, checking that you've got some powerful verbs, and also, if appropriate, using speech or semicolons, colons, etc. Okay, and only if appropriate, using contracted forms of speech. So, in this piece of writing, because it's formal, you won't be using contractions. You will say is not or should not, and you probably won't be using speech unless you're quoting a famous person's opinion on plastic. Then you shouldn't really be using speech. You need to be able to show in your that you understand what sort of things need to be included in this sort of piece of writing. Okay, so the reason for the piece of writing is to persuade your MP that plastic crisis is real and to suggest some things that we can do in our local area to help. The audience is your MP, so it's going to be a formal piece of writing. Therefore, you won't be using could not or should not, and you probably won't, in this sort of piece of writing, be using speech. The purpose is to persuade, so you've got to think about that. And the features of a persuasive piece of writing, that's why we're looking at that success criteria above. And the tone is going to be formal but very persuasive. So that's where your modal verbs will come in. So think really carefully about why you're writing this piece of writing and try your absolute best to include as many of these things um, as you can to show that you are working at the expected standard for year six. If you want to challenge yourself, then there's all those different ways of challenging yourself with the greater depth. So including those semicolons, trying to include a dash, hyphens, using formal language in the correct way. So think about those things too if you want to push yourself and challenge yourself further. Okay, good luck with your piece of writing today. We look forward to seeing what you can do independently, and then we'll move on to the editing process tomorrow. So, what will happen is at the end of the lesson, and when you've handed in your piece of writing, the teachers will circle in yellow a paragraph that you're going to improve tomorrow and redraft completely. So, change completely, improve completely, and then you will edit your work as well. Okay, thanks, Year Six. Good luck with your writing. Bye.